Good morning. How's everybody?
Good, and you?
Good. As you come in, just a reminder to make sure your lights are on so that we can see you, that you're sharing your video, and that you are in the frame of your video so we are not having class with your ceiling. Please make sure you are sitting up and ready to take some notes, not reclining. Kanaya and Kiara, can you turn on some lights so I can see a little better? That's better, Kanaya. Thank you. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is walk you through weather-related stuff because we've got some weather coming tomorrow. I want to remind everybody to make sure that you are signed up for your Cougar alerts. Those are how Lawson lets you know about closings and that sort of thing. And it applies whether you're on campus or not. You need to, know what's going on. If they close Lawson, that does apply to these virtual classes because that means Lawson knows that some students might have power, some students might not have power, and we don't want to give some students an advantage over others. So if Lawson does decide for any reason that Lawson is closed at any point, that does affect us. Now, Thursday, we don't really know what the state of things will be because Wednesday's weather is going to be kind of kooky, and it might knock out power. If I have power where I am and Lawson has not issued a Cougar alert, I will be holding class, okay? If I do not have power and the campus is closed, I will not be holding class, okay? Where would I let you know about that?
Remind.
Through the Remind app. So if you haven't signed up for the Remind app, you can go back to that announcement. Go back through your announcements is probably the fastest way to find that invitation to the Remind app and make sure that you're all signed in there. Okay. If everything is open and running Thursday morning, but you are without power, how should you communicate with me?
Remind.
There it is. Okay, so just pop on your phone and shoot me a text through Remind, and that will work as well. Don't forget to charge up your phones before all this goes down. Maybe have a backup charger and that sort of thing. So I want to make sure everybody has a plan. Does everybody have a safety plan? That's more important to me than your English grades. Does everybody have a safety plan for the weather that's coming tomorrow? All right. I'm glad to hear that. Does everybody know what county you live in? Okay. All right. And you know where to find that county on the map, right? If you're with me in Jefferson County, we are right smack dab in the middle, right, of this state. All right, folks. Fantastic. I just wanted to make sure that you had that. All right. I am going to go over week 10 stuff. I am recording today, so just make sure that you're aware of that. It's only available to students who are in the class, and then when the semester is over, I delete it, and then we do new recordings for new classes. Okay? All right. So I'm going to go ahead and do a screen share, and we're going to run through what we're doing this week, and then we'll talk about it, get your questions answered, and all that good stuff. Okay? When I do the screen share, when I do the screen share, I'm going to ask y'all to take turns reading things like we usually do. All right, just so that we can make sure everybody's with me. If your microphone isn't working, you can respond in the chat, and I'll keep that open. All right, so we are here in our Blackboard class, and we are down here in week 10. Y'all, it's week 10. We got 5 more weeks. Woohoo! All right. One thing I want to tell everybody about is that between week 10 and week 11, what do we have?
May time.
No. What happens after this
Spring
week?
break.
Spring break. How are my students forgetting spring break? I remember spring break. I'm very excited about it. All right. So I am actually going to add a folder between week 10 and week 11. It's going to be labeled spring break. And here's what's going to be offered in that spring break folder. It's just going to be a set of instructions talking to you about amnesty. Anybody know what amnesty is? Well, amnesty just as a vocabulary word. Anybody know what that one means? Anybody heard it before? Amnesty means protection. Go ahead, love. Okay, amnesty means protection from punishment. Right, so you can have amnesty from a law or a regulation, but here, what do you think that's going to mean? How could you apply that to this class? Vardasia, what do you think that's going to mean, that I'm giving you an amnesty week?
A week to get everything together, stuff that we haven't done.
Yes. Yes, ma'am. That is correct. I love the way her brain is thinking. Okay, so yeah, you're going to have an opportunity to make up work that you haven't done yet. Okay? And everything's going to be included there. This is a fantastic opportunity to raise your grade. Now, if you already have an A, you can go ahead and take the money and run and just take your vacation, right? But if you are behind where you want to be, this is a fantastic opportunity to go back, take a quiz that you missed, complete an assignment that you missed, and get those things done and get that grade that you'd like to see. So just a preview, that's going to appear by the end of the day today, and I will put an announcement with it as well. All right? All right, so we're going to talk about the research essay criteria checklist. We're going to do talk about the outline of putting that argument essay together. We're going to go over our Mla Format Handout and talk about formatting the essay. And then we're going to be talking about the discussion board workshop, which I see some of you have already participated in. I love that. And then what's our big project for this week?
The draft?
Research essay draft. What is a draft?
It's the paper before you make all the changes to it.
Yes, it's your, I like to think of a draft as your best shot at the whole thing, and then you get some help on it, and then you fix it, and then you turn it in. So it's a dress rehearsal if you're a theater person. It's your last practice before a big game if you're a sports person. But you want to run through it. It's a scrimmage, right? If you're a sports person where you have a game, it's just not against your competitor. So you get to turn in the whole essay. It's important in a draft to make sure that you are turning in the parts that are hard for you. So make sure you include your works cited list. Make sure you're including your quotations and citations, because that's probably what you need the most help with. So don't just type it in and be like, I'm going to add that later, right? All right, we're going to look at this handout together. I think you know this. Let me make it bigger so y'all can see it a little better. And then I'll move us out of the way over here. All right, William. It starts by saying, before you turn in your essay, please make sure it has met the following criteria. William, can you read the first criteria for us?
Yes, it says it has a thesis and concluding paragraph that do not contain source used. Please express your own thoughts.
Fantastic. And Alan, can you read me the second bullet point?
At least one body paragraph that supports the idea with your own experiences independent of research you wrote. 2 in your essay argument draft without research, week 6 assignment.
Great. And I misspelled assignment, but you'll forgive me for that. Miss Portia, can you read the third bullet point for me?
One paragraph discussing one of the 2 sources about the topic that I provided week 8 assignment.
Okay, so that paragraph that you did in week 8 that was on one of the 2 sources, and remember the sources themselves appear in week 6. I'm talking about the fact that you don't have to write this paragraph right now. You wrote it in week 8, right? So make sure that you're putting those ideas together. So I'm reminding you in each of these bullet points that you've already written that thesis paragraph, or at least a draft of it, in that week 6 assignment. You've written 2 paragraphs of your own opinion without research in that week 6 assignment. I'm only asking for 1, so if it was short, maybe combine, right? And then you did your source paragraph about one of the articles I provided, and that was your week 8 assignment. Last week's assignment is 1 paragraph each about the 3 sources you located through the LSCC database. 3 source paragraphs with 1 source each. Sources from outside the databases are not permitted, and that was last week's assignment. You will have feedback on last week's assignment before you go to the weekend, right? So hopefully I'll get that feedback to you today, actually. You did it last week. You'll get that feedback on it today so you can use it over the weekend to get this assignment done. Ronisha, can you read me this next bullet point?
Every full paragraph begins with a topic statement about the ideas of the paragraph will address.
Beautiful, thank you. And let's see. Can't see everybody at once. Norvi, can you read me the next bullet point, the one that's blue right now?
The source paragraph carefully and patiently introduces the source it is about to use.
Fantastic. And Monisha, can you remind me how many sentences I asked you to use at least to introduce your sources? We talked about this last week.
3.
Yeah, 3 is fantastic. You use 1 to introduce the author, 1 to introduce the title, and 1 of summary. Fantastic. I love that. Kanaya, can you read me the next bullet point, please?
Each source paragraph contains 2 to 3 quotations.
Okay, fantastic. And Aaron, can you read me the next bullet point, please?
Every quote is inside quotation mark.
Fantastic. Quinteria, can you read me the next bullet point, please?
Every quote is preceded by a quote integration phase.
Great. Jacob, can you tell me what a quote integration phrase is? We had a little bank of them last week. Can you remind me what some of those were?
Is it when you say like he said, he
yes, he says,
reflected.
he argues, reflected. Yes, absolutely. Brilliant, sir. Thank you. All right. Who am I talking to next? Nikayla, can you read me the next bullet point? It's blue for you.
Every quote is followed by an in-text parenthetical citation.
Parenthetical citation, that's right. So, Jonah, those citations, what should they look like? Lakeisha, what should those citations look like?
I have no clue.
Okay. Can somebody help us out? What should those citations look like?
Between
with the number of the paragraph that you got the source on?
That's right. So it's parentheses, lowercase par, period, space, and then the number of the paragraph, and then you close the parentheses and put the period there. All right. Very good. And I'll show you where to review that information for those of you who weren't sure about that. And I'll read this last bullet point. The last page of the essay contains a 4-entry works cited list that is alphabetized by author's last name and that follows MLA format for a works cited list. And again, you put a draft of this in the week 9 discussion board. So most of this work, y'all, has already been done if you've been keeping up, right? So you're going to have it, and you're going to be copying and pasting it. And I think that's what I'd like to talk to you about now, is that copying and pasting. And I'm going to actually open a Word document here. If you're working in Google Documents, that's fine. But when you're working in a Word document, we want to make sure that we are following that MLA format and that we're saving it to the cloud somewhere. If you're working in Google Docs, you want to save it as a Google document. So I'm actually going to open our MLA format handout next. Okay, so our MLA format handout is a Word document, and it is actually formatted in Word. Okay, so are you composing this in the Blackboard composition space, or are you creating this in either a Google document or a Word document? Which one are you doing here?
You're creating this in either a Word or Google document.
Correct. Okay, so we're not using the Blackboard composition space because the Blackboard composition space can't do some of this stuff. It can't indent for you. It can't double space for you. So we want to make sure that we are following these MLA rules for setting up the paper. What's this? Norvie, what have I highlighted there?
Just your name, class. It's supposed to be at the top of the paper.
Right.
Anyway.
That's the header right there. But it's not in the header of the document. In the header of the document, all I have is the page number. So the header stuff goes underneath the physical header in the document. I'm going to go ahead and enable editing so we can take a look at it too. So the headers, in the header space, please insert a plain page number in the upper right hand corner of each page. Does anybody not know how to insert a page number? Alrighty, cool. Place a single-spaced header. Now let's talk about line spacing for a second. Right now this is single-spaced, but in both Google Documents and in Word you have a little tool with an up and down button here, and that's for line, paragraph, and spacing. So you select the text that you want a single space or double space, and then you click on either 1 for single space or 2.0 for double space. Now, notice these two things. They should both say add space before paragraph and add space after paragraph. If it says remove, go ahead and click remove so that those extra spaces aren't there. You just don't need them. So if I wanted that double spaced, I'd click on 2. If I want it single spaced, I would click on 1. Okay? We don't double space by hitting enter because it makes a huge mess for the reader when they open it in some other format, okay? So make sure that you're using that spacing button. It looks the same in Google Documents as it looks here. And so we want to double space the majority of the text. Your full name is the first thing in the header. The class name and time, that's English 101, and you guys are my Tuesday, Thursday class. The official name of the assignment, which is Argument Essay with Research, and the date the assignment is turned in even if it's past the deadline. My name isn't there. I know you're one of mine because you're in my Blackboard class. It doesn't need to be there. If you want to add it, it would go after the class name and time. And please make sure that you're using Dr. instead of Ms. and that you're spelling my name correctly. Now, I haven't asked you to put it in there, but if you choose to put it in there, definitely make sure it is correct. I don't need it, but if you're going to do it, make sure it's correct. All right. So are there any of these things? It does say to use a Times New Roman 12-point font. There are some texts that are harder to read and take up more space than they need. So you just, again, select the text that you're working with. Go up to font and select Times New Roman, and then make sure it's in 12-point font. And that's generally a nice readable size. You don't want to do 10-point font, which is hard for some folks to read. And larger than that makes it look like you're stretching with your formatting instead of your brains. Okay. I'm going to stop the share for a second, and I'm going to take questions. Are there questions about formatting or just generally putting the draft together?
Can we access that document that you just showed us?
Yes, sir. That document is in your current week's, it's in your current week's information. It's called Handout on MLA Format. Good question. Yes. Other questions about putting this draft together? Here's one. Do you have to use criterion for this week's draft? Alan, talk to me.
No, ma'am.
Nope. When do you have to use criterion?
Next week's.
For the week 11 draft, and that'll be after spring break. So, if you have not pulled it together to get your copy of criterion yet, you have this week and spring break to make that happen, and then you're going to need it. Y'all, you're going to need it to pass this class, so let's make it happen now. It was supposed to happen between weeks 1 and 3. You were required to use it in week 4 or 5 whenever we turned in our first essay. And you're required to use it again, so your grade is going to go further down if you don't get that criterion, so we need you to get that. All right, other questions about putting this draft together? All right, I'm going to put you in a breakout session, and let me tell you what I want you to do in those breakout sessions. I'm going to assign you to groups, and then I'm going to tell each group a different job for us, okay? So let's create the rooms. Let me create the rooms. We want to do how many? 4 participants, 3 to 4 participants per room, but I want fewer groups than that. Okay. There are going to be 5 groups, and I'm going to give each group a task. Okay. So Norvi, you are my leader in group 1. And your task for your group is to tell me the 5 jobs of a thesis paragraph. Now, you may need to back up to week 4 for that, but I want you guys to review the 5 jobs of a thesis paragraph for us.
That's right.
Okay? All right. Group 2, where's Vardasia? Vardasia, you are my leader for group 2. For group 2, I want your group to review for us the 4 jobs of a concluding paragraph. And again, you may need to back up to week 4 materials, but I want you to do the 4 jobs of a concluding paragraph, okay? All right. Erin, you are my leader in room 3. I want you to review for us. I want you to give us 5 different quote integration phrases that we can use. Okay? You got that, Erin?
Yes,
all right. Room 4. Portia, you're going to be my room 4 leader. And I want your group to review source introductions. I want you to tell me what the different parts of a source introduction are. And Miss Ronisha. Ronisha, you are my leader for room 5. Are you with me? Now, your job is to review our in-text citations. Where do they go? And what should they look like? Okay? All right, I'm going to give everybody 10 minutes, and you have your specific goals. Does any group leader need me to repeat your goals for your group? All right, I'm going to open the rooms. I'm going to give you about 10 minutes for this. All right, here we go. All right, just for the purposes of this recording, I'm going to just let everyone know that I'm going to take this opportunity to use the breakout room list to take attendance. All right, we are back. Let's see. Norvi, tell me what your group covered and what you reviewed.
We just went over the five jobs.
Great. So,
the paragraph.
was I correct? Were those in week 4 for you to review if you need them?
Yes, ma'am.
Fantastic. All right. So the jobs of a thesis paragraph are in week 4, along with a sample thesis paragraph if you need to review those. Those are in week 4. There's even a video that goes with them. What are the 5 jobs of a thesis paragraph?
Raise the subject naturally.
All right, so we're raising the subject of Confederate monuments naturally, right? Just say, hey, have you ever thought about them? I'm thinking about them. A lot of people are thinking about them right now. Just take a couple of sentences to get started. What's job number 2?
Set the scene and get the reader's attention.
Okay, so setting the scene is maybe explaining where, that the situation is that a lot of them have been started to be taken down or people are asking for them to be taken down. Give a little bit of that background. And do you need to give sources for that background? Do you need to use a source?
No, ma'am.
No, you know what's going on. You're just orienting your reader. Fantastic. And what's the 3rd job of a thesis paragraph?
State your clear and direct response to the prompt, which is stating your thesis.
Right, so that's your stating your thesis, and we practiced those theses, right? This is a yes or no statement. So yes, I think they should be removed. I do not think they should be removed. So make sure that you have a nice, clear, I think the monuments should be removed. I do not think the monuments should be removed statement in the middle of that paragraph. 4th job, and this is one a lot of students forget or rush. If you're working on paragraph development, this is a big one. What's the next one?
Preview the examples you will use.
Okay, so preview the examples you're going to use. If you have a long essay, this could take 3 or 4 sentences. Let your reader know this is going to be a research essay. Maybe even name a few of the names of people who agree with you, right? And start walking us through that. Do you want to do that in a few sentences or one giant awkward listing sentence?
Few sentences.
Right, so you want to do it in a few sentences. When we had 3 body paragraphs, we used 3 sentences. Now we have one of our own and 4 of research. Now we have 5 body paragraphs. So it doesn't need to take 5 sentences, but it definitely should not take less than 3. Okay, so slow this down. This is where you get a lot of your good development in a thesis paragraph. And the last job of a thesis paragraph?
Get the reader ready for your first example.
Right, and in this essay, that's going to look something like, well, let's start out with what I think. I'm going to start by telling you what I think. Before I even read anything, this is what I thought, right? And get yourself started there. Fantastic. Vardasia, are you there? You're my leader of the next group. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and what were y'all reviewing?
The 4 jobs of a concluding paragraph.
And those are also reviewed in week 4. Was I correct about that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yay! All right, I know where things are. I want to make sure y'all know where things are. There's also a video to go with it and a sample concluding paragraph for you. All right, so what are the jobs of a concluding paragraph?
The first one is to summarize and assess how your examples work together, like your 3 points. You briefly explain those 3 in the beginning of the concluding paragraph.
Fantastic. So this is a big job in this essay where we've got all of this different research coming together, and we need to synthesize it for our reader. We need to put it together and say, all of these people agree with me. They all say this, or they all point out different aspects of it, but in the end, so have some patience with this. Again, in this paragraph, this is where a lot of your development comes from, is making sure that we can look at those 4 sources you use plus your own idea, and you tell us how they all go together here. Does that make sense? Fantastic. All right, Vardeja, what was that second job?
To explain how you prove your point, what you've learned, and to restate your thesis from like a better place of confidence.
Yes, this is the I told you I was right situation, right? So we want to restate that thesis, but with some more confidence, like see what a great job I did proving this, right? I think of it as this little moment to pat yourself on the back on what a great job you've done proving your point. It's also this place to project some confidence to the reader and say, now you agree with me, right? Now that I've shown you all of this, any reasonable person would agree with me, right? So it's a place to really show some confidence in your writing. And so I want you to think confidence when you're writing these sentences. What's the next job?
To explain what is at stake if someone does not learn from your experience. Explain how this taught you something.
All right, so this is where, and this is a little different in an argument essay, what's at stake if people don't agree with you, right? This is where I don't want you to walk away and say, oh, agree to disagree. I want you to lay out the stakes. What's at stake if somebody says, no, we cannot get rid of these monuments, and they're up, and are they offending everyone? Are they perpetuating racism? If you believe they should stay, what's the consequence of getting rid of them? Are we erasing our history? Are we just pretending those things never happened? Are we disrespecting the soldiers that they represent? What's at stake here? And you need to really drive that home for your reader. This is the biggest job of the essay. This is answering the big so what question. So what you think this, right? Why should I think it, right? So this is where you need to have a little patience, but be bossy with your reader and tell them what they should think and tell them, hey, if you don't agree with me, this is what's at stake. So have some patience there. That's the other spot for some good development in this paragraph. And bring it on home for us. What's the last job of a concluding paragraph?
Give your reader advice. Tell the reader what to do or think next.
All right, and it's that tell the reader some action steps. We don't want to inspire people and then leave them wondering what to do. Should they write to City Hall? Should they write to the mayor? Should they join a protest? Should they, what should they do, right? Ask them to take some action. This is an argument essay. You want things to change, or you want things to be protected, or you want them to, so what should they do? And I want you to really think about that. Great job in groups 1 and 2. All right, Aaron, you were in charge of room 3, am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, what was your task?
Quote integration phrases.
All right, let's hear some of those quote integration phrases.
He says.
He says, yep.
She claims.
She claims.
He tells us.
He tells us, great.
She states.
She states, fantastic.
And he argues.
And he argues. Great. All right. So remember, we generated a pretty good list of these the other day. And I love that you went back and forth between our gender pronouns. We don't always have to use that pronoun. We can use the author's last name, never their first name. That's rude. You don't know these people personally. You can use the author's last name. You can refer to them as the author. The author tells us that. Or you can, even if you don't have an author, you can say the article says, right? So those are some options there. But they always have to be there. Remember, the quote is like a layup, and the quote integration phrase is the 2 steps on the way to the basket before you put that up into the hoop. All right? So remember those quote integration phrases. Great job, Aaron's group. Let's see. Miss Portia, you were in charge of the next group. What was your task?
Okay, we got frequent. We had to do our task is source introduction.
Great.
Okay, and so here the first one we said that in the source introduction you have to reference the author of that source.
Right. First, give me a sentence telling me who the author is. Great.
Yeah, for example, if I am the author, you say in Portia's article, for example, right?
Well, you would say in Portia Naoma's article, and then you'd refer to you by your last name after that, because we're not going to be, we don't know you personally. We could be Miss Naoma.
No, I'm just giving you an example. I'm sorry.
You're fine, darling. Okay. So yes, the name of the author, and then what?
And then you mention the article.
Then you give us the title of the article. That's right. Now, here's a quick reminder. If you don't have a name of an author, if yours was posted by CNN Wire and it doesn't have a byline, it doesn't say who it's written by, you talk about the article first in the first sentence, and then in the second sentence, tell us where that article was published instead, but still 2 sentences. Okay? Mm-hmm. All right. Is there a third sentence?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other one that you make mention of that the quote, that part of the article that claimed your attention that you were trying to speak about.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's right. In that third sentence, what we want to do is give a brief summary of that article and say in our own words what that article is about. Now, you know you're summarizing if you don't have to look at the text to say what you're trying to say. If you have to look at the text, that's something that requires quoting and citing. Summary should be able to happen in your own head by saying, well, this was an article about how he thinks the articles should be removed, right? And you can say that without looking at the text. That's summarizing. If you have to look at the text, you're probably paraphrasing or quoting. Okay? All right. Good job. Yeah.
But once about this, don't we have to make mention of this where the source, I mean, like where you saw it, where you saw the article?
Right. Now that is optional. You can do that. You can say it came from the Washington Post or something like that. That's optional, and it's good. I do like that. So if you want to do 3 or 4 sentences of source introduction, that's a great thing to do. Or you can combine them. You can say you can say the author who writes for CNN Wire, that sort of thing. Great job, Portia's group. Okay. Our last group, Ronisha, I think you were our leader there. What was your group tasked with?
The in-text citation.
Fantastic. And where do those go?
You quote your phrase. You quote the source first.
Right.
And then you parentheses, PAR dot, and the number in close parentheses, and make sure you put the period at the end of the sentence.
At the period at the end of the sentence. I love that. So the citation goes at the end of a sentence in which a quote appears. So even if your if your sentence continues after the quote, if you've put your quote in the middle and you say, but he's wrong or something like that after, the citation still goes at the end of this sentence so that we're not interrupting our thought with the page 49 in the middle. So it goes at the end of the sentence. I love how she describes it. We we close the quotation marks, open the parentheses, lowercase PAR period, space, the number of the paragraph, close the parentheses, and I love it. She's like, and then put the period. So you don't have a period at the end of the quote. It goes after the citation. That was such a smart detail. All right. Are there questions about the pieces of the essay? All right. I am going to go over then. I'm going to do another screen share, and we're going to look at our other handout for this week. And that might raise some questions. As we go over this, keep track of questions you might have. I'm going to get rid of those breakout rooms. Okay, so this is a list-style argument of how to organize this essay. Okay? Y'all are doing great. Okay, but let me make this bigger so that we can read it together. All right, Nikayla, what's the first paragraph in this essay? Read number 1 to me.
Thesis paragraph, all your own ideas, stating your view.
And when did we draft that?
In week 6 assignment, please review and revise.
Right, so that means that you take what you wrote in week 6 and then you go back to week 4 and that review of what thesis paragraphs ought to look like, and you make sure that what you wrote in week 6 matches that it's updated. Because you didn't know anything. You couldn't preview what your examples were going to be very well because you didn't have them yet. So don't just use what was in week 6. Make sure you update it. You got a good start on it in week 6, so you're not starting from scratch, most of you. But there is some work to add to it and some tinkering to do with those week 4 materials, that review of thesis paragraphs. Great. Jacob, tell me what the second paragraph in the essay is going to be.
Body paragraph about your own reasons for loading your review.
Right. Is there a source in this paragraph? No. And where is your draft of that?
It's in week 6.
Fantastic. Okay. Miss Ashley, tell me what the third paragraph in this essay is going to be.
Towards paragraph number 1, one of the two I provided draft in the week 8 assignment. Please review and revise.
Great. So this is the source paragraph that you wrote in week 8 about one of the 2 sources I provided in week 6. So make sure you check your feedback on that and review and revise and then put it in as paragraph 3 of your essay. Monisha, can you tell me what paragraph 4 will be in this essay?
Source paragraph number 2. One you found in the database. Draft in the week 9 assignment. Please review and revise.
Great. Now remember, by the end of this week, you'll have that feedback that you need. I'm going to try to get it to you today. If you don't understand your feedback on that, definitely plan to come to a help session, or we can review it on Thursday as well. All right, fantastic. Jonah, tell me what paragraph number 5 is going to be in this essay.
Source paragraph 3, one you found in the database, and please review and revise.
Right, so you drafted that in the week 9 assignment as well. Fantastic. All right, let's see, Alan, can you tell me what paragraph 6 will be?
Source paragraph number 4.
Also one you found in the database, drafted in the week 9 assignment, review and revise. And Kanaya Jones, my friend, tell me what paragraph 7 is going to be.
You said paragraph 5?
Paragraph 7.
Including paragraphs, all your own ideas.
Right. Now, some of you drafted this in the week 6 assignment. Some of you didn't get to it in the week 6 assignment, and that's okay, but that does mean some of you are starting from scratch with this concluding paragraph. That's okay. Review those concluding paragraphs in week 4 assignment. Make sure that you're following those steps. Okay. Miss Lakeisha, what's the last thing in this essay? Number 8 here on this list.
Works cited list 4 entries. Draft of this is in the week 8 and 9 discussion board.
Fantastic. So it was actually in the week 9 discussion board. And you will have feedback on that as well. So what I'm doing in that discussion board is I have taken one of your entries and said you wrote and copied and pasted, and then I wrote it should look like, and then I put in the same thing, only I corrected. And then underneath that I say see if you can see the differences and apply those differences to your other entries. Okay, so there's that feedback for you. I've corrected one of your entries for you, so at least one of your entries should be correct if you are looking at your feedback. Okay, where is your handout for works cited lists? It was in the week 9 materials. That's right. Okay. All right. So I also have in here some paragraph type reminders, just reminding you of those different jobs. Body paragraph without research. So there's a little reminder for every kind of paragraph in here of what it should look like. So you don't have to go hunting unless you need a more thorough review for this. If you kind of have the idea, you can just use this handout as a reminder. If you need to review thesis paragraphs, though, those materials are in week 4, and it's a more thorough review than you have here. But if all you need is just that little checklist, it's here for you, so you don't have to go searching for it. Okay? All right, I'm going to stop the share, and we're going to take questions. Alan, you mentioned in the chat that you have some questions. They're probably smart questions. Would you mind asking them?
Okay, I have 2 questions.
Great.
One, do the source paragraphs have to start with the source you provided?
No, you can. No, you can organize your source paragraphs any way you want to. I would like students to lead with their own view before they start in on the research, just because that puts you in a position of power in the essay, and that's what we want. We want our authors to be in that position of power where the sources are backing up you rather than it being a book report, right? But other than that, you can organize your sources in any way that makes sense for you, okay? So you can put them in any order. As a matter of fact, if you have one article that just says what's been happening, it might make sense to put that first, right? And then people arguing about it after that. Great question. Other question. You had another one, yeah?
Yes, ma'am. Some of my quotes, it's a good quote, and then it's got some fluff words, and then it continues on to be some good other quote.
Great.
So how do is there a way that I can take the fluff words out?
Yes.
And
yes, and I'm going to show it to you real quick. To take the fluff words out, you put this in instead of the fluff words.
Okay.
All right. So anywhere there are fluff words, just put those in. Now, you have choices here. You can separate them and do them in separate quotations, or you can put the ... in the middle and keep it. If you do the ... in the middle, just make sure that it still reads grammatically, that you can read it as one sentence and it sounds like one sentence. If it sounds weird, use the ... to end that quote, put your citation, analyze it, and then put the next piece in the next quote. But each quote should read like a normal person talking, right? So just make sure you're not making the grammar weird. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Fantastic. Great question. Are there other questions about putting this draft? It's a lot of copying and pasting, but the good news is it's not a lot of composing. You've done most of the composing already. And I know your copy-paste skills are strong. Does everybody know how to get to the work in Blackboard to copy and paste it? Okay. If you're not sure, I'm going to quickly remind you that to get to your old work in Blackboard, you can access it through the gradebook. So you can go in and click on the assignment in the gradebook and it opens up your work and you can copy and paste from there. Hopefully you've been saving it in Word documents as you go, but if you just, I know that I asked you to compose the week 6 thing in the Blackboard space. So for that, to get to that, you're going to want to go to that week 6 space, through the grade book, and that'll open your assignment and you can copy and paste from there. Okay? All right. Other questions about putting this draft together? All right, I'm going to remind you that next week will be an amnesty week where you will be invited to complete work that you have not yet gotten done, and it can go as far back as a missed quiz in week 1 if you need to. The only thing that's going to be excluded from these are discussion boards. And that's because everything else alerts me when you've done new work that I haven't graded, and discussion boards don't. Discussion boards are the only thing that you would need permission from me to make up, okay? But that's a lot of work you could get done over the spring break if you need to, and I'd really love to see people doing that and taking advantage of that. Remind me what the deal is for Thursday if weather knocks out all our power. What's the deal there?
Class is canceled.
If there's a Cougar alert saying class is canceled, you don't have to wait for a thing from me. If the Cougar alert says that Lawson is closed, that means they've decided there are widespread power outages and we should not hold class, okay? If you don't get a Cougar alert, I will be talking to you through Remind about whether I have power and access, and I will be trying to hold class. So if Lawson doesn't cancel, I don't cancel. Unless I have no power or can't get to work, right? If I don't have power and I can't get to work, I will send you a notice via Remind. If Lawson has not issued a Cougar alert Thursday morning, if everything seems okay, but it's not okay where you are, remember you can text me via Remind and let me know what's going on, okay? One way or another, what is your top priority on Wednesday?
Our safety.
Your safety, that is correct. Okay, we are in the portion of the class where we are workshopping. So if you feel secure in what you're doing, you can log out. If you feel like you need a little additional support to get this week's work done, absolutely stay on and get that additional support. Ask those extra questions. But those of you who are feeling secure can go ahead and log out.
So, Dr. Swindle.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we already written our paragraph in part, you know?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so we already have we already phrased it in a way that it started the beginning, the thesis sentence or the introductory sentence and what have you. So do we put it together like that, or will we have to take our transition words to connect the entire essay?
That's a great question. I think you'll probably need to tinker with those topic sentences a bit just to make sure that it flows when it's all put together. But that might be something that gets done between drafts. Like you do this draft, and if your topic sentences are wonky, then we can fix them before the final draft. Okay? Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. If you got a question, shout it out.
I got one.
Yes, sir.
I had turned in some late work from last week. Will that still be graded? And
Yes.
Are you going to be commenting on it still?
Yes, sir, I will. My goal is to get the late work that was turned in last week and the work that was due last week graded today and Thursday. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Yes, sir.
I know you said in the spring break we can do work that we didn't turn in. What if I already typed in my assignments on time and I just wanted to break up my break?
Then you don't have to do anything. If you've been keeping up, then you've earned yourself a break. This is just an opportunity for, I have some students who've kind of fell off, and this is an opportunity for them to not have to withdraw. If you're doing fine, you don't have to do anything. You can just take a break.
I have like the
the letter B grade, and I wanted to get it to an 8, so that's why.
Okay. In that case, you're going to be offered an opportunity to revise one of the major assignments, and that would probably be the best way to raise a grade, and that'll be coming down the pike a little later. Okay? But if your work's already in on time, you're just looking to improve your grade, you'll get an opportunity to do that in our last week, okay? Because I want you to get the grades you want to.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Silva, can I leave if I don't have anything?
Yes, ma'am. You're good to go if you're feeling confident.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Jonah, do you have a question? Alan?
No, ma'am. Just listening to questions to see if they will help me answer if I have one in the future.
I love that tactic. Jonah, do you have a question?
I'll say the same. Alan said.
Okay. So Jonah, that project that you were working on for the first essay, I would like you to redo that first essay over the break, please. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that'll be your opportunity to get that caught up. Okay? Okay. Fantastic. All right, gentlemen, if you don't have any more questions, you are good to log out, and I will hopefully see you Thursday. Stay safe, y'all, okay? All right.